Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. My name is Darren Pope, and this over here is not Victor Farsick. I don't know where he is. I'm sure he'll be here in a few minutes. Plus, it could be time zones again, because daylight saving time started up again in the States, and not over in Europe yet, so who knows? He's just not responding to me. I just don't feel loved anymore, and that's okay. But anyway, we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox, and on Wednesdays, the new episodes come out. And, oh, there he is.
There I am. Oh, sorry
I was telling people that you just didn't love me anymore, and you decided to leave.
I was in another webinar, something with K6 Fox, Grafana,
Oh.
One next to another. But I'm here.
Okay, good. Karan, good to see you here. Edward, ball of confusion. Yes, the whole life right now is ball of confusion. By the way, we were talking last week about daylight saving time, and again, I was figuring maybe you just missed it, right? Because it's an hour earlier than normal.
I never know whether it's daylight or not daylight, or I 100% rely on my mobile to tell me what time is.
What's next? Now, Did you happen to see that in the U.S., there's a Senate and a House. Mm-hmm. So the Senate this week unanimously, nothing ever happens in the United States unanimously.
Okay.
Never. Unanimously passed that daylight saving time is going to be done. No more. Gone.
Brilliant.
Sort of. Now,
what is sort of?
Sort of. So it won't be this year because so basically we'll have to go through one more cycle. If it passes the House, which, it's got to pass the House too. So Senate and House, go to the president, get signed off, done, right? But here's my beef with it. So it'll be a year because train schedules, airline schedules, everything else is already planned out for a year in advance. So, okay, reasonable. That's no big deal.
Makes sense.
You can see daylight at the end of the tunnel. However, here's my beef with it. Basically, next March, we will go to daylight saving time.
Okay.
And never come out of it.
Okay. And
I don't like that. That's a problem for me because, and I understand the reasoning why. They're just wanting, everybody wants to have an extra hour of daylight.
Okay.
For somebody like me that goes to bed early, that means it's going to be daylight still when I go to bed.
Okay.
And it's going to be an extra hour of dark in the morning. And that just doesn't help me any. So it's all about me.
Yeah, turn on the lights, man.
Lights won't help when I'm out at 4 a.m. So.
Okay, yeah, okay. Then we need to put you VR goggles so that you can actually stay home and think that you're walking out during daylight.
Yep. and it's interesting that Miroslav, hello to you. Victor in permanent daylight caving. Yes. So that's my beef with it. I don't like the idea of staying in daylight time, but it's better than having to switch back and forth.
Yeah. At this point, I honestly don't care whether we adopt one or the other. I just don't want this change to be happening.
Yeah. But you were speaking of VR goggles.
Yeah.
And this week on the podcast, we had Patrick on for our Divide by 50. We're at 150 episodes. And we were joking with him about maybe at some point in the future, I'm trying to remember what it was. At some point in the future, instead of SREs running around a data center, they'll just put on goggles and virtually run around a data center to reset servers. By the way, if you don't know who Patrick is, Patrick's the godfather of DevOps, as many people have titled him, I guess. He's been co-author on a bunch of books, so just go look up Patrick Dubois and you'll find out how cool a guy Patrick is. I'm still shocked that he actually comes on with us and agreed to come on with us every 50 episodes. I am. But see, you know everybody, so we can pull that off. I don't. That's my problem, though, isn't it? We titled this as Diagrams as Code, and usually when we bring Patrick on, we're just sort of picking at his brain, and he's been looking at diagrams as code and digital twins, and so it went all over the place, including your favorite and mine, NFTs and blockchain.
Oh man.
So again, it rambled for quite a while, and hopefully, if you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and listen to it. By the way, let me break the fourth wall here. Do you have another meeting at the top of the hour?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
But it's okay if I'm late to that one.
yeah,
This matters more.
okay. Let's just get into the news. Backstage has now joined CNCF Incubator. Wait, it gets better. They also released 1.0, which I didn't bring that one in. So all of that happened this week. This announcement came out before the 1.0 release announcement this week. So you've been on a tear recently about internal developer platforms.
Yes.
So I was speaking with somebody the other day, and I was using the acronym IDP, and they were going, what does that have to do with permissions?
I know.
I
It means
lower
like 7 different
DP.
things.
Huh?
Yeah, the IDP means different things.
Different things.
Different people, yeah.
But I was using uppercase D, not lowercase d, so he should have understood, but no. So where is all this headed?
I mean, Backstage is... I mean, we need something like Backstage. I'm not 100% convinced that that's Backstage, but we need some kind of flexible user interface that can be adapted to different needs. And there is not much on the market right now. So Backstage going... I mean, Backstage was open source not from the beginning. It wasn't at the beginning. I mean, first it was used internally by Spotify.
It was used internally, and then they open sourced
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And then they open sourced it quickly afterwards. And, going into CNCF is a great move. I like it.
Yeah. If you don't know what Backstage is, do they have a picture on this? I don't remember if they snapshotted anything or not. Well, there's the adoption curve. So from July 20 till March 2022.
Yeah,
now, not a
going
big
up.
number, but it's going up, and it's going up at a very rate.
Basically, you can relate that graph with the adoption of IDPs, internal developer platforms. Basically, that's the primary focus of Backstage.
Yeah. So core components, software catalog, software templates, tech docs, expand it through plugins, 60 plus plugin, 100 publicly listed adopters, 2,000 forks. Most importantly, 4,000 plus Discord members.
Yeah.
So anyway, now part of CNCF. Very interesting. Now people will start yelling at Spotify for, wait, why are you using my money to do open source? Instead of complaining about people that they have on their platform.
Yeah.
I will say Spotify is our number one platform for people listening to the podcast.
Really? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is.
I should have, but I don't.
Well, the reason why you didn't know is I don't think I ever told you. Or we may have mentioned it before, but it's
I'm
our number
getting
one.
some stats, but I'm deleting the emails.
Yeah. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Don't trust those.
Okay.
I mean, they're fine. They're indicative, but they're not stats. So anyway, Backstage, congratulations to everybody at Spotify. Now, there was a piece of information. I heard about this yesterday on Brett's stream. By the way, I'm going to say it out loud while it's on the stream here. For one of your Thursdays, you and Brett need to get together on the Devops Toolkit. Then you take a break for an hour, and then you go over. He comes over on yours. You take a break, and then you go over on his the hour later.
Are we now at the same time?
You're on the same day, an hour apart.
Ah, okay. Yeah, we should do that. Yeah.
Get through. Obviously, daylight saving will already be gone through at that point.
Yeah.
But once that's now stable, then because that way people can come over and see you on your channel
Yeah.
and see him there because he's never been over, and that way you can go back over to his, and you could do a two-parter, if you will, right? Do the
Yeah.
A part on your channel, do the B part on his channel. See, this is
like
why I
that.
get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, exactly. You're worth every penny.
Thank you. Wait, do I have one? No. All I have is this dead battery, which is probably worth more than a penny. Do you know it costs roughly?
That's worth more than
It's worth more than a
income
penny.
from this.
It's worth more than a penny. It costs. I don't remember the exact numbers anymore, but it costs like somewhere between a nickel and a dime to produce a penny, to physically produce a penny. I mean, I understand why we need a penny, but okay, we got to come up with something else. Yes, here we go.
But okay.
Okay, paid with good. Yes, I'll take that. Okay, let me come back to this. I heard Brett talk about this yesterday. By the way, I never watched Brett live. I watch Brett at 2x speed after it's all done. So I can get... Yesterday his show was 2 hours, so it was still an hour for me yesterday. But they shipped new versions of BuildKit Builder Engine, which is what all the build tools are based on today. Am I going too far with that? Most of them are, not all of them.
All of the new tools, Docker tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the couple of things here that I saw, and he called it out more than I'll be able to explain, but obviously BuildX is it still experimental, technically experimental?
I don't know technically, officially, but it's been used.
Yeah, it works. So. Yeah. But they added in, doggone it, where is it? Image rebase and improved remote cache support. So if you're not building with BuildKit, now if you're using Docker Desktop, by default it's BuildKit. If you're using Docker on Linux, the default is not BuildKit.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You have to install the plugin. Or you have to enable the plugin. It's okay. There, but it's not there by default. Or at least in the 20.19 it's not. But rebasing an existing image, which I thought was a little weird. Because when I think about lazy... Okay, so previous release introduced a new feature, lazy image pulling. Good idea. But what was interesting is... Where was it? I was reading it today and now I lost it. I don't remember. I had notes and I don't have my notes in front of me. Anyway, new features added into BuildKit. This remote cache thing was interesting too. But again, all in my notes and I don't have them written down in front of me. So if you're not using BuildKit today, which is part of Docker, then you should. Right? There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
You're just going to ignore me, right?
No. Nothing intelligent comes out of this head at this moment. Not ignoring you.
In other words, you've been in meetings all day.
Sorry. Rarely anything intelligent comes out, but now I feel very stupid.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so let's move on. So Pulumi import was, according to the blog post, and I saw it from Joe Duffy today, greatly improved.
Oh, that's nice. So import is really important.
It is. So here's the previous example. So when you did import previously, before the release that came out, this week, whatever date it was, it generated something like this. Right? Now, that still looks pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks reasonable. You can read it, you understand it. But now, it is more stuff.
Okay, it's having
more detailed
information.
More detailed.
Yeah.
Again, you always start it with S3, right? That's the hello world of any infrastructure.
Exactly.
Code. If you're doing infrastructure as code without doing S3 or some variant of a blob store, you're doing it wrong, I think. And they go through EC2 here as well. So if you were to take a look at let's use Go because Go makes you happy.
It does.
There's what it looks like. Of course, your head is spinning because why not Terraform? Okay, well, all right. Let's not go there today. Let's stay happy today. Bottom line is they've improved the import, which is the key part to this.
Nice.
Now, This import, though, is taking a look at the state file. I can't remember if Pulumi calls theirs a state file or not. Do you remember?
Wait. Okay, so I might be getting, just to get the context, is this import from the existing infra or from
Okay.
Terraform state?
So that was here. So let me see if I can find it.
I'm guessing it's talking about ClickOps over there, so I'm guessing from the actual infra.
From the actual infra, correct.
I'm guessing.
I thought I had read that it was pulling from state. Maybe it's very possible I'm wrong because it's been one of those weeks.
Yeah, bring the resource into Pulumi state file.
Yeah, it brought it into the state file. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where I got tripped up. So yes, it's bringing it in live, if you will, which is, what did we talk about last week that was doing this?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. We were talking about somebody, there was some tool. Okay, here. Now it's annoying. Because, and I'm sure everybody else is getting annoyed by us right now. There was some tool that we talked about and we skipped a week. Am I thinking about 2 weeks ago?
It will come eventually.
Yeah, it'll come back to me later. Anyway, it's better now. Which,
Yeah.
to me, this is not a trivial problem to solve.
No, not trivial at all. Those things are extremely complex. It looks trivial, it's not at all.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're using Pulumi, upgrade to, I believe it was 3.26. Yep, 3.26. And this was as of the 15th, so Tuesday this week. Okay, pretty quiet news week. I got a couple of tools that I found. First one was OPToggles. I want to call it OPToggles, but that's not right. It's OPToggles.
Open policy, not ops, yeah.
Okay, so looking at the logo, without reading words, what do you think this is associated with?
OPA.
OPA. So what's
Open
interesting?
policy.
Huh?
It says open policy.
I know that, but I was saying look at the logo and not the...
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Okay, well, I like how they set this up. We often want our front end to reflect the permissions enforced by the back end. Makes sense. If a user is not allowed to click the button, then don't show the button.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
Now, here's what's interesting. It brings the power of OPA and Opal into your existing feature toggle solutions, meaning they already support Launch Darkly. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't played with this yet, but it's it gives me pause, let's put it that way, because this one example here, they're not allowed to click on the button due to the back-end permissions of who they are. They shouldn't see the button. It shouldn't be disabled. It just shouldn't exist. That's it. That's
a bit. Kind of depends from the case to case. Sometimes you want to hide it because simply no button for you. But sometimes it's no button under this condition. So you do still want to know that, yeah, there is the button. You are able to click it, but just not under this circumstance. Right? So sometimes it should be disabled, sometimes hidden.
But if I'm going to disable it, there has to be a message saying why I can't click it right now. It has to be really contextual. It can't just be disabled. That's why I'm saying is, if there's no way under God's green earth, how would you be under the green earth? No way under the sun for me to be able to click on that button, then it shouldn't be there. And plus, any of the fields that are there should be read-only. So if they were actual form fields, they should be flattened and just rendered. Anyway, I thought this was interesting. This is a new-ish project, a few months old, but OPToggles. That reminds me I need to send this to somebody else. Okay. CUI. A CLI-driven graphics tool for Kubernetes. So from the CLI, you type something and it generates graphics.
Okay, now I'm curious.
Yeah, I haven't had time to play with this week due to what I'll talk about in a few minutes. But it generates... So where was the one-liner here? We love CLIs. We think they're critical, blah, blah, blah. We need power to go off the rails. Yes, but ASCII is tedious. CUI takes your normal kubectl command line request and responds with graphics. Instead of ASCII tables, you're presented with sortable ones.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So if you take a look at it, it's almost like I don't have a... Okay, let's look at... Again, I haven't tried it yet, but to me it'd be like you'd be typing kubectl up in the browser bar, and then you get the render in the canvas area.
Yeah,
sort
I don't
of.
like that. I don't like that, not a bit, to be honest. Kind of, I think that those who... So I'm not entering now into discussion which should be used CLI or no. Right? Some people want to use CLI, some people don't. It's fair enough. But those who want to see... I'm yet to find a person who is using often CLI and does that from a browser. I never met that person. Kind of like, I think that people who often use CLIs don't do that from browser. So if you want to give me a better representation, hey, look at K9S. It's doable. You don't need to go to browser to give me a better representation.
Well, they're not in a browser, but it feels like a browser browser.
Oh yeah, it's
metaphor.
kind of like okay,
A browser
yeah.
metaphor.
So yeah, I wasn't sure from the screenshots whether this is browser or terminal.
It's terminal, but in their browser type.
Okay.
I
need to try it. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's of course based on Electron, so it should run everywhere. It will take a new Mac Studio to run it, but you could run it anywhere.
Hey, we need to support economy.
Promcheck. I thought this was interesting. A tool to identify faulty Prometheus rules. Have you ever written bad Prometheus rules?
All the time. It's really tedious to write them.
So what this does is you would run promcheck, give it the Prometheus URL and a check file, and then it will verify whether or not your rules are correct or not.
So let's try a bit role playing. If you're writing rules inside Prometheus, where would you like to check those rules?
Would the logical place be Prometheus?
Bingo. Kind of like, I'm not sure I want to switch to CLI. I mean, I want all verifications, checks, and all those things to be where I am.
Should this be a kubectl plugin?
No, I mean, man,
Could
it's
be.
been a while I brought alerts. I think that you write them directly in Prometheus, or you write them as part of config maps, in which case it's, yeah, so in which case it's, this sounds okay, but still, I would like then to, if I'm not writing it directly in Alert Manager, I would, but in YAML that becomes config map, still I wouldn't want, then in that case I wouldn't be checking them when they reach Prometheus or Alert Manager, right? I probably want to check before I put it there. So either I'm writing it there and then I want to check it there, or I'm not writing it there and then I want to check it before it gets there. I might be missing something obvious here though. But
Basically, if you're, well, I don't think you're writing it here, you're just, all it's doing is, in this case that we're seeing here, if I say, okay, my Prometheus URL is here, then it's pulling in everything that's written and then validating it. So it's basically a linter. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm trying to say is that don't you want to lint while you're writing something, whatever that something is, not after that something becomes production?
I would. I would prefer that. But just because the linter, even if the linter captured it and I was able to use it and I applied it and it was true at that point, at some point that rule became invalid.
Oh yeah.
So I still need to be able to hit the live
True.
and
True.
I need both. It's not. I don't think it's one or the other. I believe it's both.
True.
Anyway, container available for it if you want to run it as a container, which could have some interesting side effects on. I'll use Brett's word from yesterday: automation workflow. Instead of saying a deployment pipeline, it's now an automation workflow. Everybody needs to go and watch Brett's channel or show from yesterday. Because think about it. I want to run promcheck going through my process. It got deployed. I had already checked out all the rules. Now I'm checking it in production. Is it still good? I mean, there's value in this external of Prometheus, I believe, from the workflow perspective. Okay, I'll move on from this. Promcheck. Last one I've got from here is dummy. I saw this today. You give it an open API spec, and then it gives you an endpoint to run to exercise. My beef with it? Notice the installation process.
Yeah, you know that I freak out when I don't see brew when I see go install. Yeah.
Well, I figured, okay, but
so
here's the
wait,
deal.
if this is a mock server for Go developers, yeah, 100%.
Oh, well, it's not just for Go developers. It's for anybody pulling in. So the way you run it is you pass in the YAML file or you pull in a YAML file externally.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But if it's not for Go developers exclusively, then please don't make me install Go.
It's not. Yeah, and I looked at this and I said, okay, there's a 070 release. I went, okay, maybe that's just old docs. And I click in, and the only thing here is just source code. And I went, come on, people. It's not that big of a deal to bake a binary. I mean, heck, you're already using GitHub workflows.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that this is written. No, not like this is written in Go. So, if anything, gives you very, very easy way to create binaries for all operating systems. That's Go.
There's no excuse. I mean, I'm not saying anything against them, but if you're writing something in Go or anything else that can be compiled to a runtime, heck, even Java, you can do it now with Graal. There's no reason not to. Very frustrating, but a very cool little app nonetheless. And it is, I looked at it earlier, it's under MIT licensing. I think everybody else today was under Apache licensing. Sorry. All right.
No worries.
Let's go to Cubecost. We've talked about them before.
Did we? I don't remember.
We did.
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them. There will be a guest, I think, sometime in the future in podcast.
Okay.
In
case people haven't watched this yet, what is Cubecost and what's the plus and the minus for it? If there is
you
a minus.
get information about how much something costs. Now, what I like about it is that typically you would get information, hey, this is how much your cluster costs. But you can actually split that information in zillion different ways. You know, kind of like how much this costs per team, how much this costs per those set of labels, how much this costs per namespace. And when I say like namespace, not only the cluster itself, but also storage, networking, this and that, right? So I was always interested in, to me, cost is very interesting, but not kind of how much this costs to the company, because I feel like you cannot really deduce much on that such a high level, but the ability to split costs in many different ways and say, hey, your team, it's your team's fault that we are going bankrupt. to me, that's very interesting, right? Being able to split costs in many, many different ways. And the only downside, which is not necessarily a downside that I can think of, the main one maybe, is that the price could be too expensive or too cheap depending on what you're doing, right? I think it really depends on you, kind of. I mean, to me, logic is very simple. If, let's say, if you can save more than double from what it costs the license. I mean, there is a free tier for one cluster only, right? And there is open source version that doesn't cost anything. But if you go with Cubecost, then I guess you need to calculate whether the savings are sufficiently big compared to the cost.
Right. So anyway.
Which is relatively easy. You get a free option for one cluster, unlimited number of nodes, if I remember correctly. You see actually what you're getting, and then you easily extrapolate, cost of the license versus cost savings, right? And also it gives you recommendations. I like that as well. Kind of, hey, you're allocating too much memory to this thing, type of stuff.
Right. Okay. Really not a whole lot of news this week. But there may have been, and I just missed it. Last Saturday night, I had hardware failure.
What failed?
My laptop.
Okay.
Now, I had backups. I tried to restore the backup, and it still wouldn't boot. Basically, I could log in, and I got a progress bar, and the progress bar never progressed. So I ended up having to do a full, fresh install, which gave me the ability to upgrade from, where was I already forgot, Mojave to Big Sur.
I think it's conspiracy, man. I think that Apple is telling you it's time for you to get Studio.
I would love to get a studio, a Mac studio. I just don't have a spare $15,000 laying around.
True. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying that it's Apple sending you subliminal messages.
Yeah. The studio looks very nice, I have to admit. And with
I'm
some
not
of
sure
the things
about the monitor, but machine, it's worth that money.
Yeah, the machine definitely is. Monitor,
monitor we can discuss for a long time whether it's worth it or not, kind of like back and forth. But you cannot get that value much cheaper of the machine itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's very tempting. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah.
But it's still even more tempting now that the M1 Mac Minis are.
Yeah, I would go for Studio. Studio sounds like a right one.
I think for my main desktop, yeah, the cheapest. Well, maybe because that's got the Max chip in it versus the Ultra chip in the bigger one. And why wouldn't you want two bonded M1 chips?
I mean, you do. I'm just saying. I mean, no. I mean, if I can afford, I would go for baseline in any case. Now it's just a question of one baseline or the other baseline. That depends on the amount of money. But I feel that if you can afford a more expensive baseline, great. If you cannot, you're still not making a mistake, right?
As I've heard one person say, basically, when it's time for you to upgrade, buy as much as you can, power-wise, and be happy with it, knowing that it's going to get replaced in the next year, but you're going to get another 5 years out of it. Because I'm using an 11-year-old and a 8-year-old machine right now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm squeezing out the last bits of juice. I'll put it that way. The show was a little bit shorter this week, just because there wasn't as much going on. And again, I've been rebuilding a machine all week. I did have backup. Like I said, I had my backup, but my backup was not restorable. I had most.
I have no sympathy unless you tell me that we're talking about. I have no sympathy for you.
I know that's fine.
If you're talking about videos, that's supposed to be on external drive from the get-go. And if you're talking about everything else, that's supposed to be in Git.
Well, some of my applications don't allow me to do that. Not easily.
Okay.
So anything that mattered, I was back up and running. But like I've got a Stream Deck, which is right here.
Ah, okay. And,
Right?
yeah, so kind of configuring all the shit. Yeah, that takes.
It takes time. So like what I had never done for my Stream Deck profile, and you need to do this for yours as soon as we hang up, is export. There's a backup all, and it backs up all your profiles into a file.
Yeah.
That then can go into Git, which is fine. So I've been trying to go through these, layer by layer. I'm not putting everything on here. Basically, day by day as I've gone through, it's like, okay, what tools do I need to use today that I don't have installed? And I've cut way back on everything that I used to have installed. So I'm okay with doing a fresh install. And really, I probably should do that every 2 years.
Yeah.
Or maybe every year and stay one. So whatever the next one after Monterey comes out is, then I'll upgrade to Monterey. Like whatever Monterey +1 is, I'll wait for 3 months after that's been out and then upgrade to Monterey. Just stay one behind. Because I don't need the latest, because a lot of the software that I use won't run with the latest OSs. And I don't want to, and I know they've had 12 months to figure out the other one. Docker. Did I say that out loud? I think I did. Yes, testing backups. Unfortunately, I've got all the files. It's just, it wasn't a bootable. I use Carbon Copy Cloner. So I had all the files, but there was some extension that got corrupted or something that made it to where I couldn't log in. It was very annoying. But now I've got Big Sur. The one thing I've noticed though, my CPU is running a lot hotter all the time. Like more usage. It's not really hotter because it's always hot. So, boys and girls, if you're not doing backups, do your backups. If you're not running an offsite backup, you should do that too. I don't care what OS you're running. Backblaze is my favorite for offsite. And no, I'm not an affiliate for them. I've been paying them money for a very long time. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Nothing special comes to mind.
Nope. And next week, another podcast episode on Wednesday.
Yeah.
There should be a DevOps Toolkit on Thursday.
Yeah. And
At-
Paradox on Friday.
Correct. Yeah, that should be it.
Yeah. 3 live shows. No, 3 shows.
3 shows, 2 live, 1 not live
Yeah.
podcast. And you'll have your video on Monday, whatever the video is. So
Correct.
Tuesday's our only day off.
Tuesdays, yes.
Tuesday's the day you can go do work, right?
And weekends.
And weekends. And speaking of work, it's time for me to go back and write some new Ansible. It's not bad. It's useful. It's useful.
Oh yeah, no. It's kind of, it's almost sad how fast things are changing. I mean, I think Ansible is great. I loved Ansible. I kind of like it was the best thing that happened to me at one moment.
10 years ago? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, but there's that question, right? Kind of like the fact that something new comes along and is based on better base and better ideas and stuff like that, that on one hand that makes what was before that not good, right? But that still does not make it bad, right? I'm definitely not in favor of Ansible today, but that shouldn't be interpreted as a thing. Hey, people who made Ansible are doing a horrible job. Quite the opposite. It's just things changed.
Yep. And I'm still using, how do I put this? I'm still doing things where Ansible is the right tool.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
doing a lot of VM
if you're doing
things.
mutable something or
Yeah.
on-prem, that's
Yeah.
Ansible. Let's not kid ourselves kind of terraforming on-prem. I mean, come on, no.
No reason to. Doesn't make sense, right?
No sense at all.
Okay. All right. Let's end with that. Thanks, everybody, for being here with us live today. Before you leave, if you are live, go ahead and give us a thumbs up before you leave. Subscribe, ring the bell, do the things. And podcast will be out. Victor on Monday, whatever time. Okay, I'm not going to say time, but it's usually morning time when with daylight saving, I have no idea when it will come out. So Victor's video on Monday, podcast on Wednesday, back with DOT on Thursday, and
AMA, TOT on Thursday, DOP.
then this again on Friday.
Oh, we are kind of like a typical software geeks. DOP, DOT, AMA.
We're acronyming everything. That's our job in life. Okay. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Cheers.